Peace, Love, Liberty Radio version 4.0. Prepare for launch.
OTC is go.
Packetbus is go.
PTC is go.
LPS is go.
Houston flight is go.
Molotov.
STM is go.
Safety comms is go.
STU is go.
LRD is go.
SRO is go. CDI is go. Launch Director, NTD, our launch team is ready to proceed at this time.
99, proceeded, 3, 2, 1, ignition. Right away, Houston.
Consequences so severe, so pull your trigger quickly, dear. Our patriots are acting up, let's punish them with fear. Hey, hey!
Hey, welcome to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio, online at fppradio.com. This is episode number 340. That's right, this is episode 340. Coming up in just a couple of weeks, we will have, yes, you guessed it, episode 350. And I'm debating about making some tweaks to the music bits, to the intros. So let me know what you think. Send your thoughts to thoughts@fppradio.com. Let me know if you like the current intro bit, if you think it should stay the same through episode 400 and then change at that time, or do you want it to change up at episode 350? Again, send thoughts to thoughts@fppradio.com. And I teased this a little bit on Friday, but wound up going with a different story altogether. So I will now touch on and cover the story again that I teased about things that we can learn from facing our fears. Wound up talking about the fact that there are no mistakes, only happy little accidents and life lessons. And, some people are scared to make mistakes, so it seems very fitting. And I initially had planned to cover the lessons that we can learn, or the things we can learn from facing our fears. Initially planned on covering that on Friday, but wound up going the entire show talking about facing our fears. And there was probably an opening rant in there about something I don't recall offhand. But that, on the one hand is the glory of having a horrible short-term memory, is that I can't remember exactly what I talked about on Friday. But at the same time, it makes it not so good because, again, I don't remember exactly what I talked about on Friday. But I do know that I did not cover the 5 things we can learn about facing our fears. Got this story from lifehack.org. And before I get into this, should I talk about some of the acceptable fears? Because that's really one of the things, right, is there are certain fears that in this, thing we call society, some fears are considered acceptable and some fears are not. Some fears are more legitimate than others. And sometimes if certain people have a certain fear, they're told, well, you just need to be a man. You need to man up and face that fear. So, for instance, fear of heights. Not that I have a fear of heights, but it seems as though women, it's okay to have a fear of heights. Men, not so much. Especially someone that's seen as like a masculine, manly man. Fear of heights, not exactly acceptable for certain people within society. Fear of spiders seems to be accepted across the board. Again, like masculine, manly man. If somebody came up and said, hey, did you hear that Arnold Schwarzenegger is scared of spiders? You might laugh and be like, what? Like, he's like, super manly man. Why is he scared of spiders? But again, by and large, it's okay to be scared of spiders, snakes. There's certain fears that seem to be just, absolutely absurd, that get scoffed at widely. Triskaidekaphobia. That's the big fancy term for people that are scared of the number 13, specifically Friday the 13th. That fear, again, I think a lot of people will buy into the whole superstition and be like, ooh, can't have a 13th floor on the elevator, or on the hotel, the building. Got to skip 13, go from 12 to 14. But everybody knows that there's still a 13th floor. You're just calling it something different. It's like when you call the ground floor, and the second floor, the first floor. Well, no. The first floor is the one you walk into. That's the one on the ground. And then the one above that is 2. It's not ground 1, 2, and then the third floor is the second floor. No, like you're not fooling anybody when you skip from 12 to 14 just because somebody might not like seeing the number 13. But that's one that, like society sort of plays along with, the fear of the number 13. Fear of death seems to be another one that, is accepted by and large. One that a lot of men aren't really, quote unquote, allowed to admit is a fear of being alone. And that's one that I've talked about, not necessarily being alone. Like, I'm sitting by myself right now while I record this. So, like, being by myself, not scary. Not at all. It's not like, oh, I'm scared of the dark because I can't see. I'm by myself. I don't know what's going to happen. I need human companionship. No, not that kind of alone, but more a fear of being lonely, if that makes sense. Again, that's one that is not necessarily considered to be acceptable for men to admit that they have. But, I'm not afraid to admit certain things about myself. And if you go back and you listen to all 340 episodes of this show, I'm sure you will learn a lot about me. If you listen to the audiobook or read the actual book, A Rebel's Journey, My Path to Liberty, my memoir of sorts, you will learn a lot of stuff about me that I'm not afraid to admit. So what can we learn together about facing our fears? And that's really what version 4.0 is about. It's about me helping you become a better version of you while I become a better version of me. And, well, I seem to have ranted for this entire opening segment. So when we come back, we will jump into this article from lifehack.org about the 5 things we can learn from facing our fears. Stay tuned to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio online at fppradio.com.
When her plush and comfy life suddenly and unexpectedly fell apart, Brooke and her dog Cloud set out to defy the odds. If this is a man's world, as they say, living on the streets is no place for a young woman. One day she awoke in the redwood forest and realized she had become a hobo, and would ultimately come to know exactly what it means to survive. How to Be a Hobo by Brooke Willett is available from Amazon.com and all major bookstores. In 2115 New England, there are no borders, no states, and no regulations, yet never has a more peaceful and prosperous place existed. But Mr. Drake's security company has seen better days. Faced with the prospect of waning power, Mr. Drake intends to replace the anarchy of New England with a government. But at what cost? Will anybody care? And can anyone stop him? Anarchy in New England by Joe Jarvis is available from Amazon.com and all major bookstores.
You're listening to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio with Darryl W. Perry, online at fppradio.com.
Welcome back to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio. What can we learn about facing our fears? Well, let me jump into the article. The author begins by saying, I love to work out, but sometimes the aches and pains of advancing years make me want to throw in the towel and quit. But rolling over and playing dead is not my style. Recently, I started switching up my routine from P90X to Jillian Michaels. Her workout videos are no joke. I love what she says in one of her tapes. Most people don't show up in their own lives. If that wasn't enough of a kick in the pants, I read another article by Anne-Sophie Reinhardt. She quoted her cycling instructor as saying, "Remember, Ultimately, you are in control of your workout. I can motivate you to push harder. I can try to keep you from giving up. But in the end, it's all up to you. And this is Darryl jumping in. I'm reminded of the quote from Braveheart, where, and I forget if it was William Wallace or William Wallace's father or uncle, but someone made the statement in the movie Braveheart, all men die, but not all men really live. And that quote has sort of stuck with me because, like, I want to have a life to where at the end, I'm like, yep, I had a good life. I truly lived. Not just like I went through the day-to-day motions and, was on Earth for however many years. I want to, on my final breath, be able to say, I actually lived a good life and I made a difference. That is what motivates me. You have to figure out for yourself what motivates you. And I think, speaking of death, fear of death is something that is an accepted fear. But I'm not going to tell you, hold your breath until you almost die, and that's how you get over your fear of death. No, there's not really any way of getting over that fear. So that's not what we're talking about here on ways to overcome or face your fears. But I digress and get back into the article. The author here says, all of this is true. That being I can encourage you, but ultimately it's up to you to actually do the thing. The whole, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. I can, motivate you. I can tell you inspirational things, but it's up to you to actually, take the motivation and the inspiration and put it into action. All of this is true, and it speaks to the lack of ownership that we take in so many areas of our lives. Sometimes we don't show up because we're tired, we lack effective leadership skills, or we're passive. The author says, as a therapist, I see people giving up control over important areas of their lives all the time. Passivity can originate from fears of facing conflict, how we're genetically wired, fears of less than favorable outcomes when we act assertively, and a whole host of other things. For example, she says, I work with a lot of clients who struggle with eating disorders. These folks can lose their identity in the battle with food when it's not even about food. It's about controlling something in their lives when everything else seems unmanageable. They really want to take charge of something, but they aren't taking the authority where it counts. Oftentimes, they're afraid of sitting with difficult feelings or managing difficult situations, so they hide. Then, there are these folks, myself included, she says, who struggle with anxiety issues. We give anxiety the power to control our emotions. Others give husbands, bosses, or friends the power to decide because they feel worn out or defeated by the relationship. We all struggle in different ways, but the lack of owning up to personal responsibility, the fear of showing up in your own life, and the consequences all this brings in each of our lives can be summed up in 2 words. Actually 3, because there's an and in the middle here. Conflict and frustration. If you're sick of not being authentic and want to take control of life by facing your fears, the following suggestions can help get you going. How to start showing up. The first step is to decide how you want your life to look. Then, look at what's holding you back. What are your fears? What obstacles do you believe you're facing? Showing up in your own life does not mean you have it all together. It just means you're willing to set goals, plan, face obstacles head on, be assertive, and get honest with yourself and others. And we've talked before about goals. Goals are dreams that you put into motion. You put a deadline on it, and you say, this is the first step that I need to take to be able to take the second step, to be able to take the third step, to be able to take the fourth step, to be able to do this, to be able to run the mile, to be able to run the 5K, the 10K, the marathon, the super marathon. This is how I wind up in Los Angeles from New York City. It's about putting things into motion. You have the goal, but until you actually start making smaller little segments of that goal, it is never anything but a dream. It is nothing more than a dream unless you start trying to figure out how to actually put it into place. And then, once you figure out how to put it into place, you have to act on it. I've given the example before, and I forget who I got the idea from of this example, but I love it, and I'm taking it, is you walk into a kitchen. The floor is a mess, the sink is full of dishes, and there's a mess on the stove and the countertops. And you say, I'm going to clean the kitchen. And you walk in, I don't know where to start, I'm going to go watch TV. And you turn around and you go away. You've got a dream of cleaning the kitchen, but you don't have a goal because you've not given yourself a deadline and you've not given yourself smaller things to actually put it into motion. So you walk in and you say, you know what, I'm going to sweep the floors. I'm going to wipe off the countertops. I'm going to wash the dishes. I'm going to wipe down the stove. I'm going to clean out the refrigerator. And then, the next thing you know, you've got a clean kitchen because you decided to take that goal of clean the kitchen and put it into small, manageable tasks. And then you actually acted on those tasks. Number 2 on here, or actually there's a little bit more about start showing up. Failure is okay. And we talked about this on Friday a little bit, that there are no mistakes, there's only lessons. And same thing with facing your fears. It's okay to not wind up, achieving whatever it was that you were facing. It's okay as long as you learn a lesson. The key is to learn and grow, and then hopefully you don't repeat the same mistake. How else can you face your fears? I'll tell you. Stay tuned.
During the 2013 Porcupine Freedom Festival, Davi Barker presented an idea for a renegade psychological experiment. Since then, he has refined his idea and put his plan and research into writing. He explains, "We aim to show the world beyond a shadow of a doubt that power corrupts absolutely and corrupt authority deserves no obedience." Authoritarian Sociopathy is available from Amazon.com, all major bookstores, and now available as an audiobook. You can support FPP Radio by shopping online. Whether you're looking for precious metals, bitcoins, or books, you'll find that and more at shop.fppradio.com. Every purchase you make from one of my affiliates, like Namecheap, Spendabit, and Amazon at shop.fppradio.com helps fund FPP Radio. Or you can shop directly from FPP with Bitcoin in the Bitcoin store. That's shop.fppradio.com.
You're listening to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio with Darryl W. Perry. Online at fppradio.com.
Welcome back to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio. Online at fppradio.com. I am your host, Darryl W. Perry. And before we get back to talking about fears, I've got a question for you. Listen up. Do you use Bitcoin? Good. If not, well, get started at bitcoin.com, learn more about it. But you need to use Bitcoin because it's a free market money. And you need to promote it as an alternative in a fiat-centric world. You also, if you're using Bitcoin, you want to find places you can spend your Bitcoin, right? Exactly. So you need to have Spendabit in your arsenal. Spendabit is the search engine for things you can buy with Bitcoin. Spendabit aggregates millions of products from thousands of Bitcoin-enabled merchants. Keep your money in the free economy. Spend a bit. Use my affiliate link, spendabit.fppradio.com. And if you're a Bitcoin-accepting merchant, like I am, ask about their merchant suite to reach even more customers. Spendabit.fppradio.com. So the 5 steps, or rather 5 things we can learn from facing our fears. First, you have to show up and actually decide for yourself to live your life. Then you have to face your fears. Being scared does not mean you lack courage. It's going ahead and facing the giants anyway. Courage means you step out and take a risk. Behind all our fears are beliefs. Behind all of our fears are beliefs we have interpreted and given the events of life meaning. For my ED clients, this from the author here, she talked earlier about being a therapist, and she has clients with eating disorder. She says, for my eating disorder clients, they don't starve, overexercise, or binge and purge because they like it. They do it because they hold beliefs that having a thin or in-shape body will give them acceptance, adequacy, and value or worth that they crave. Dig deep and look at your insecurities. Decide what beliefs are driving your fears. Small steps, and this is something that I did talk about already, but it's worth going over one more time. Anyway, the old saying, Rome was not built in a day, is true. Don't try to make too many changes at once. You will become overwhelmed. Instead, decide what's timely, what's attainable, and what's realistic. Ask yourself the following questions. And I'm glad I didn't skip over this because this is looking at things from a completely different viewpoint than the example I gave about cleaning the kitchen. So, yes, you can't just go in and be like, all right, I'm going to clean the kitchen, and you snap your fingers and the kitchen's clean. This is not Bewitched. You can't just, like, wiggle your nose. And, hold on, I just realized that I made a very dated television reference. So, if you don't know what Bewitched is, and I realize that, there's a bunch of people younger than me that probably listen to this show that are like, I've never heard of Bewitched. Bewitched was a television show that I watched on reruns when I was a kid. And it was set back in, I think, the 1960s. And there was actually two shows that were very similar. There was Bewitched and I Dream of Jeannie. Both basically had the same plot. There was this, magical person that lived in the house and just, snap of fingers or wiggle a nose, and then poof, things get done. So one, the person was actually a witch. The other one, the person was a genie. So, you rub the lamp, and out comes the genie, and I'll give you 3 wishes. And before I continue, I just want to say that Jeannie from I Dream of Jeannie, absolutely hot, a beautiful, amazing woman. But I digress. Ask yourself the following questions when you decide what's timely, what's attainable, and what's realistic. Ask yourself these questions. What is the state of my readiness for change in any particular area? How badly do I want what I say I want? How hard am I willing to work? What incentive do I have for pursuing this change? And how do I get what I want or need? The first step towards change. Now that you know what you want, what do you need to do to get it? Explore strategies for getting where you want. Ask yourself what actions will get you where you want to go. Where can you start? What do you need to do right away? And what can you do later? Then list strategies to action by examining what strategies will actually be most helpful and best for your situation. And now you craft a plan. A plan gives you a roadmap. And I talked about this before, and since it mentions roadmap, I'll say and I've given this example numerous times, there are a lot of ways to get from New York to Los Angeles, or vice versa. You can go from LA to Sedona, over to Albuquerque, and then up to Denver, and then go to Montana if you want, and then go across through the Dakotas, and then for some weird reason drive to Detroit, and then down to Chicago, and then over to Muncie, Indiana, and then to Indianapolis, and then to Louisville, Kentucky, and then you could drive down to Nashville, Tennessee if you wanted to, and then go over to Virginia and come up Interstate 95. Certainly not the most direct route by any stretch of the imagination, but it's a route. You need to have a roadmap, and plans are crafted to drive you into action. I'll tell you more about crafting the plan for how to overcome and face your fears here in the final moments of Peace, Love, Liberty Radio, online at fppradio.com.
Hey, this is Michael Dean from the Freedom Fiends radio show. I've been working with computer programmer Derek Slopey to create Fiend Phone. I'm using Fiend Phone right now to talk with and record one of my co-hosts in real time. Take it, Davi.
Hey, this is Davi Barker, and I'm 1,000 miles away from Michael, but we sound like we're in the same room.
We sure do, Davi. So, Davi, please tell the nice people more about Fiend Phone.
Fiend Phone is free, open-source software that opens up a global world of possibilities for collaborative, high-quality remote voice media production, and I'm digging it.
People can try the Windows beta version of Fiend Phone right now at fiendphone.com. But we're also raising money to vastly improve Fiend Phone and vastly improve independent talk media worldwide.
So go to fiendphone.com to help out. Who will build the audio roads? We will, with your help.
That's fiendphone.com. FEENPHONE.com. Foxtrot, Echo, November, phone.com.
Fiend Phone. I never knew remote audio could be this good.
This is Paige Peterson from MaidSafe, and you're listening to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio with Darryl W. Perry.
Hey, welcome back to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio, online at fppradio.com. We're talking about facing our fears, whether it's a fear that society accepts as legitimate or not. You still need to face your fear. You need to figure out what it is that's holding you back from whatever the thing is. Set your goals, put your goals into action, and that's what we're talking about. Crafting a plan. A plan is just a roadmap, but plans are crafted to drive you into action. They keep you from being overwhelmed and help you find useful ways to get your goals accomplished. Ask yourself what action will get you to the desired goal. Also, consider how you plan for obstacles and be flexible if things have to change or be modified. And this is something that I have known some people that if anything goes awry, they absolutely get flustered. And there are times when it will happen to me, to where, you know, there are certain things I want or need to go a certain specific way. And then if it deviates, then, all right, time to call an audible and try to figure something out. But I might just be too flustered to actually be able to do anything at that right moment. But that's the way with plans. You have to be able to deviate. You have to be able to make a change. These strategies will help you change your life if you are intentional about putting them into practice. Don't wait. Start now and take ownership of your life. You'll feel empowered by stepping out and risking change. Remember, it's all up to you. And let me repeat something from the very beginning. There was the quote from the cycling instructor that says, remember, it's ultimately up to you. You are in control of this workout. You are in control of your life. You're in control of facing your fears. You're in control of doing the thing, whatever the thing is. I can motivate you. I can encourage you. I can try to keep you from giving up. But in the end, it's all up to you. And it's all up to me. It's all up to each and every single one of us that's hearing my voice right now to wind up making whatever the change in your life is that you're wanting to change. Maybe whatever it is, maybe you're really scared. That's fine, but it's ultimately up to you, and I want to encourage you to do the thing. And I also want to encourage you to send me your questions, because I answer those every Wednesday. Send those over ama@fppradio.com.
The podcasts of FPP Radio are licensed under Copyheart. We believe that copying is a form of flattery and do not abide by the copyright laws. Those laws serve to restrict the flow of ideas, which no one can really own. Copying is an act of love. Love is not subject to law. If you enjoy the show, consider joining the Fans program and get perks like ad-free versions of Peace, Love, Liberty Radio and FPP Radio News. To learn more or to join the Fans program, visit fans.fppradio.com.